So these are the questions. I'm going to try be a little bit more interesting, a bit more insightful than just give you my answers verbatim, personal to my life. My life's not that some of you think it's interesting. It's really not that interesting. I'm just living day by day, to be honest. But I'll try to answer this either by generalizing a topic and helping put some of my own insight into it so you can learn from it, or you can, gain something from listening to this bullshit, or I can tell you some bullshit stories that you can laugh at. That's the two ways I'm gonna try to answer these questions. So I'm recording this after I've said quite a lot of answers. I do waffle quite a lot. I'm sorry. I've tried editing it a little bit. It's a fucking pain in my butt. But I feel like, if this is, I am dead, and this is my last thoughts and opinions that exist on this earth before they've gone into the abyss, I might as well put them on the internet, right? If I'm dead, a few extra minutes can mean the world. So yeah, I mean, it is very late and I'm recording this, and all these answers have been recorded over a few nights at around 2 a.m. in the morning. So I'm quite low energy in a lot of these. So yeah, these are the questions that you've asked, and I've tried answering them. So the first question is, like, obviously because I'm a producer, the first question is, what are my favorite albums? I'm not going to explain them. I'll just explain what genre they're in a little bit and why I like them, that 1 or 2 sentences, but we'll breeze through them. There's 16 plus honorable mentions, so let's go. A Zoom Form by James Blake. It's a relationship album. I'm not really into relationship albums. I don't really like pop songs about love. I have no interest in them. However, when they're done in a smart, interesting way, I think they're brilliant. And this is a perfect example of this. Production's amazing. What was it? I'll Come To is an amazing love song. I really like it. It has a few brilliant lines of how, like, pride manifests itself within a relationship. Especially the lines, for example, he says, like, oh, you're going to LA, I'll come too, because I've got work there. And then the woman in the relationship says, no, actually, I've got work in New York. And he's like, he immediately drops this facade of trying to save face and just goes, okay, no, I'll come to New York because I want to be with you. So initially he's got this pride that's stopping him from telling her that I want to come to LA because you're going. But he drops it as soon as he realizes she changed her mind. Yeah, an overall good album. Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino, an amazing funk album. The introduction's so good. I think it's so good because I love funk, and hearing contemporary funk with some contemporary production styles is amazing. Like the low end on the introduction, was it Me and Your Mama, is so good. Alright. To Pimp a Butterfly, I've for some reason abandoned the alphabetical ordering. To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick Lamar, probably my favorite album of all time. Like, it's so conceptual, however it's still like got that, like, not griminess, but it's still got that, like, it's not like very hard to grasp concepts because they're so conceptual. No, these are like in your face concepts, and they're really good. The music is amazing. I love the jazz and funk. Control by SZA. As a male in his 20s, I can only hope to gain so much from this album, but I've gained a fucking lot. I think I'm a little bit biased as well, because I listened to this while driving a car in a game on an Xbox on a rainy night, and it just heightened the experience. I was just driving, I think it was like Forza or something, and I was just driving in the Italian countryside while listening to Control by SZA. So I would say it's primarily, not for females, but I'd say it's primarily, like, I think females could get more out of this album. Because I feel like I think there's insecurity, like the implicit insecurity in this album is very nice to hear. Not in a good way, like, yes, I like pain. I like the fact that she's addressing them and using them. And as a TDE artist, she does it very well. For example, off the top of my head, I could probably, if you're a female and you're listening to this, out of the 3 things I'm going to say, 2 of them are probably an insecurity at some point in your life. Lips, nose, hair. I basically started at my chin and just drew a line up. I don't really have insecurities in that way. I don't really look at my looks in that sort of way. My looks are not something I see as one of my biggest assets, I'll be honest with you. I invest my time in a lot more other things than just my looks. However, certain females, especially in the high school period of their life, can't help it. And, I can understand that completely. Growing up in an environment where you have to compare yourself, even from a schooling aspect, education aspect, you're comparing yourself rather. And as you get older, obviously the idea of control being less and less is also part of this album, but all these different factors can really mess with your head growing up. However, there is a song called Doves in the Wind on this album, which I think is very important for a lot of males actually. It's got the idea that you shouldn't push for the pussy. The idea that you shouldn't push to form an interaction with someone, to force an interaction with someone, form a relationship with someone, just for sex. That's so weird. I think this is one of the very few songs I think SZA has a better part than Kendrick. Even though Kendrick's, you know, very good flow on this, but I think SZA washes Kendrick on this one. Next album is Sylvia Demo by Isaiah Rashad. So one of these, again, as a TD artist, as I said, he has things implicit in his music. And so one of the things that really like stands out for me is the mental health. So I feel like I really connect with his music in this way. And that's why I really love this album. And the jazziness and the noises. They're not even like musical noises half the time. They're just like, I think that's actually how he opens the album. just noises. And I just love that. It's sort of like the idea of jazz. The sort of the improvisation, the way it was all working and fits together. It's so sick. His flow is amazing. I think he has the best flow in the game right now. I think honestly his flow is only matched by Biggie, in my opinion. It's so good. So I don't try be elitist. I'm not an elitist in music. I don't think my musical taste is better than anyone. So I get sad that I can't access certain musical tastes. For example, trap rap and sort of this happy trapper sort of style music. Like Playboy Carti and all this, like I'm not a big fan of their music. And I actually feel kind of sad that I'm not, because it's more music that I could have enjoyed, but I don't. So I'm not like an elitist. I don't feel like, oh, my music tastes better because I listen to this artist and you don't. However, listening to Isaiah Rashad, especially Sylvia Demo, does make me feel a little bit sad for people who basically listen to only like NF and like Eminem. Like yes, that is rap, but it's a very specific style of rap. A very, very minute layer of rap in terms of the whole field of rap. I feel like you can gain a lot more, especially from artists like NF. Like he has Tommy Profit production, right, which is good but one-dimensional, to say the least. And I'm not gonna call him a white rapper, but he does rap like a white person. I'm not gonna lie. He's, you know, over pronunciation and like too much is in there, too much, like all the time. He's a very shouty person. But I feel like people who listen to NF don't like rap. He's very much a person who doesn't listen to rap will listen to. So yeah, I feel like him and Isaiah Rashad are sort of on the same coin, but one's like so much more powerful. And I think this is what the album really sort of identified to me. It's the idea of powerful songs that stick with you are nuanced, are well done, are smartly done. They don't like tell you there's an issue and talk about the issue, right? It's smarter than that. It sort of seeps in your bones rather than smashes you with a hammer, for example. If you have ever dealt with mental health issues and you listen to NF or you listen to Eminem, listen to Heavenly Father by Isaiah Rashad and you'll understand what I mean. The next album is Channel Orange. I fucked up the alphabetical order. Yeah, my favorite Frank Ocean album. So I actually listened to Frank's albums after I started working with him, which is always fun. So yeah, I just love the atmosphere on it. Donuts by J Dilla. There's nothing really more to say. It's Donuts by J Dilla, best produced album of all time. I think I connect to him a little bit more as well, because I remember there's a story his mom sort of said on a YouTube video, and she said that she got a phone call from a friend once and she was saying, congratulations that your son is on the front cover of a magazine. And the mom was like, what? I didn't know that. And so she not confronted, but like she, you know, asked her son, J Dilla, like, are you on the front cover of a magazine? And he was like, oh yeah, probably, I think so. I went to a photo shoot, then they used a picture or something. And she was like, what do you mean? You didn't tell me? And he was like, yeah, why would I? It's not music. I'm only interested in music. It's not about music. It's not about furthering my craft. I don't care. I don't give a damn. Like, I don't care. And like, you know, he probably would have won countless awards and probably has impacted the history of hip hop way more than anyone else, to be honest with you, now that I think about it. But I feel like I sort of connect to that idea of like, if it's not helping me and it's not, you know, about the craft, all the Grammys, all the extra awards, they're just extra. They're just the sides. I don't care about them. I'm here for the main. So yeah, that's just a story I just sort of like connected with. Next album, 444 by Jay-Z. This is how a rapper in his 50s should sound like. You know, it's rapped by a man who, you know, in my opinion, it's his best album in my opinion. No Idea production, amazing. It's No Idea, of course, it was going to be amazing. But yeah, the conversations I had with No Idea is amazing. So he's Kanye's mentor, just to put into context for the people that don't really know who No Idea is. I mean, most of you all should know, but yeah, he's given me so much good advice. Mad Villainy by MF Doom and Madlib. Amazing. Not much really to say. But yeah, rhyme folding, amazing beats. Magdalene by FKA Twigs, an amazingly well produced. I actually sampled basically half the song of Fallen Alien on my own EP, on my own trilogy. But yeah, it's such a good song. I mean, such a good album, rather. The concept of, using Mary Magdalene as well was so smart. Knight's Gambit. Now let me put this into context, right? Because you might think Knight's Gambit, really? Compared to these albums? But yeah, Knight's Gambit. Knight's Gambit is a rap album by a rapper called Carr, who I believe is still a firefighter. He doesn't tour or nothing. All his money is from album sales and firefighting. So in context, I remember listening to this the first time. I think I was at uni and I had gone boxing. I used to go boxing quite late at night. I used to stay in the gym quite late at night and just sort of work through certain things in my head. And the owner would let me because people were smoking weed in the back anyway. So he was like, oh, it's going to be open. You might as well just stay here if you want and hit the bags a few times and skip a bit. As long as you put the bags off, if you hook the bags off the chain and put them back yourself, you're calm, you do what you want. So I'd stay there till quite late. And I'd come home, it'd be about 10 in the evening, 11 in the evening. And I'd be waiting for a train on West Kensington Station with a meal deal in my bag, in shorts and a light fleece or like a light jacket on top, and that was it. This is like January, February, March time, and I'm freezing cold. Not March, more like December, January, February time. I'm freezing, and my mental health's playing all over the place. Everything's a mess. I'm tired as hell, and all I've done is put this Knight's Gambit album on, and I'm just working through the lyrics with him. He's rapping my ears, and I'm just like, really following each word, and I'm really connecting with him hard. And I love his production style. And that's where I fell in love with Knight's Gambit. It hits different on a winter night when you're fucked up. Off the Wall by Michael Jackson. The first song is so good. It's probably one of my favorite songs of all time. Don't stop till you get enough. Don't stop. It's so good. Oh, that's so good. Why do people like his later albums more than this? This is amazing. It's funk and it's like just amazing. It does slow down a bit in the middle with like songs like Girlfriend and stuff. Because it's MJ, I let it slide because it's too good. Oxymoron by Schoolboy Q. So I actually in the last year have had even more of an attachment to this album for certain reasons. I think I explained it later on. But yeah, Oxymoron, one of the first albums I actually ever heard in entirety. Really, really good gangster rap album. Pastel Blues by Nina Simone. Got the song Cinnamon on it. You can't go wrong. It's uncompromising. It helped me a lot as well when I used to go on runs during the summer when I was doing the BLM stuff, and it really helped me like find my backbone when it came down to it. Ready to Die / Life After Death. So this is one of the weird ones where like I feel like if I could take certain songs off each album and make one album, it'd be an amazing all-time good album. But for me, I think I have to put Ready to Die just over Life After Death, just because of the song Suicidal Thoughts. I feel like people get the wrong impression about Biggie just because they hear about him or what he done and stuff, and they think he was like some flashy sort of like, especially when you hear songs like Juicy and Hypnotize, and I think you don't really get the idea of him, like the different side of him. And that song, if you've never listened to it, if you think Biggie's just a thug that never really was a human being, if you listen to Suicidal Thoughts, you understand, whoa, this is what a man who does that goes through. And the last album on this alphabetical list is Swimming by Mac Miller. And I think it's quite telling that I put Swimming and not Circles. So for me, I'm right now in a Circles frame of mind, but I still like want to end up in that Swimming frame of mind. And the fact that I still prefer Swimming though, even though I associate more of myself to Circles, it's quite optimistic of me. I feel like it's quite telling that I'm actually kind of optimistic right now of my future. And that's quite a good place to be. And yeah, it's funk, it's amazing, it's Mac Miller, what's not to love. Honorable mentions, Nectar by Joji. I only put this here because it's quite recent and it hasn't had time to sink into my mind yet, but it might be in my top albums, we'll see. Price of Tea in China by Boldy James. Flow impeccable, production Alchemist impeccable. It doesn't drop down below like an 8 out of 10 for me. Alfredo by Freddie Gibbs, another one. God is Perfect is one of the best songs this year, along with Run by Joji. But yeah, God is Perfect, is so good, and Skinny Sugar is so good. Production as well, Alchemist, amazing. Gang by Heady One is another one that's Really, really good. It really, like, you can tell that he's been to prison, he's been incarcerated, he's really been through it, and I really like that. It shows on the album. And Fred again is a really good producer and does his thing. Chasing Summer by Sir, another album for me that doesn't go below an 8 out of 10, but I don't think it gets the love that it sort of deserves, to be honest with you. It's a really solid R&B album. Tana Talk 3, I couldn't not put Benny the Butcher on this list, right? It's the first ever Griselda album I listened to. Jesus, that it had me feeling some type of way. Broken Bottles on a full tube makes you feel some type of way. Daytona, Pusha T, production crazy. I think this is like one of my favorite produced albums, actually. It's so good. It's so unique and fresh. Even now it's unique and fresh, so I can't fault it. It's just that there's some, I've never dealt drugs. I've never done anything with drugs. I don't associate at all with drugs. I've never come like anywhere close to drugs. I've never even smoked weed, nothing like that. So, you know, I can't really relate to Daytona on that level, on that personal level. That's why it's in this list and not the top albums for me. I remember like watching Dead End Hip Hop. It's like a discussion review channel. They're really good. And I remember one guy was talking about how this album hit him personally. So this dude's family was involved in the drug life. And I remember him saying like there's one line about a Windstar. And a Windstar, back in the 80s at least, used to be the drug dealer's car of choice. Like if you were dealing drugs, that was the car you had, because it had so many areas you could hide stuff in. And he was imagining his father's Windstar when Pusha T said that line. So yeah, like you could tell it hit him more than it hit me. For me, it was just a car that was used for drug dealing. For him, it was his father's car. So that's why like drug dealing albums don't hit for me, but I can understand the craft when it comes to rapping. A Seat at the Table by Solange, amazing. It's funny because I remember someone brought up Beyonce, and for me, in my stupid head, I was like, oh, Solange's sister. Because for me, musically, I've been impacted way more by Solange. But it's such a good album. It's like a half concept album. 90059 by J-Rock. J-Rock's probably one of my favorite rappers. I'm waiting for his next album, bro. But yeah, it's such a good album. 9005. First of all, the intro's crazy. The beat drop when it comes to, it's like boom. It's so good. And 9005, the actual title song, is so good. One of my top rap songs of all time. OQA by I can never pronounce this. Is it Buzz or Baz? I think it's Buzz. But he's at that Dreamville. He's like the head of Dreamville or something, like a manager at Dreamville. But yeah, he's a really good rapper. He's like 6'3" or something crazy. He doesn't look that tall. I don't know, it's not relevant, but it's like a bossa nova type album. And it's really good. It's really unique. Nothing really sounds like it. Born Sinner by J. Cole. Just a young, hungry dude rapping his ass off, to be honest, and trying to figure out stuff. And All American Badass by Joey Badass. I think most people like him when he's just boring out, but I actually like the slow start on this album. It really builds a good foundation for what it is. Next question is favorite song to make. So my favorite song is probably, I've got two down here. So when you say favorite song to make, do you mean my favorite song that I've made, or the favorite like production process of making the song? I'm gonna take it in my own way and say, what song have I made that I've taken risks on and it's come off good? And that's my favorite songs to make. And two of them come to mind. Actually, the first one is probably Peanut on the Earl Sweatshirt record, some rap songs. That was like the first one where I really took control of a song and really put my own ideas into it. But the other two on this list are After Hours, the title song, and Psycho, the introduction on Psychodrama by Dave. So Dave loves GKMC. And I think for me, sometimes it didn't hit for certain people because they sort of took GKMC out of context and they saw it as a gangster rap album promoting certain things, rather than a person who's grown up around these sort of things telling us what it's like growing up around these things. They missed the autobiographical aspect of the album, and that's not what I wanted for our album. So we made Psycho to really put the listener's mind into a certain frame and understand the differences in mindset across the album. You know, there's certain places where Dave's feeling himself, there's certain places where he's scared, certain places where he's feeling a certain type of way, certain places where he's vulnerable, and I really wanted to put that into one song. And that's what Psycho was. It was basically like a prerequisite to the album. And we thought Dave would struggle because we kind of wanted to make it seem like a freestyle. And we thought, oh, it's gonna sound a bit off. The mixing might sound weird. Nah, dude murked it. I'll rate him for that. and After Hours. So After Hours was an interesting song because it started off like 4 minutes. I can't remember exactly. What was it? End like a 6-minute song? Because for me, it was all about building atmosphere. So the one word I would associate with After Hours was cinematic. We wanted to make it cinematic. And obviously, because it's like 15 different concepts, like the album, it doesn't really have one straight concept. It's about 6 different ones combined. Each song I've written an entire script for to talk about, like really flesh out what the songs are about and sort of tie it into different things. I don't think anyone's really thought too deeply about them, but it's nice to know they're there for me. You know, for like certain songs, for example, like Save Your Tears is about school shooting and saving your tears before you know, like the duh is like gunshots. But we're not, that's just one of the possible meanings. But After Hours for me was like this idea of creating atmosphere, mood. And I think you'll realize it goes on about 4 bars too long, because the risk when you take music, for jazz, for example, it's the notes you don't play that are important. And for me in this song, it was like what I didn't want to do was a heavy beat drop, was a big like Faith sort of like low end stuff. And I wanted to avoid metro style production on this. And so, you know, we dropped it with a crash, which you don't really hear. It sort of sounds like someone smashing through a window. And I really like that idea of like the production coming into its own for a cinematic way of coming through, like a visual treat in musical form was a risk I took. And I was thinking maybe this is too much like empty space, but no, I think it worked. So yeah, those are my favorite songs so far. I've made quite a few more. I'm not saying that any song that isn't these songs are bad. I'm just saying like these are the most me so far that has been released. There are other songs that are potentially coming out. We'll see what they are, but I don't want to leak anything. What would you say to your high school self, or what would you say to people at your high school now? First of all, I wouldn't get chosen to speak. I wasn't bad at high school. I didn't do the bullcrap that the high school wanted me to do. Like I wasn't a prefect, I wasn't any of that shit. So yeah, the school didn't really like me in that way. I was kind of unknown, pretty much under the radar. If I went back to my high school self and I was like, yo, I got some advice for you, my high school self would just tell me, piss off bro, I'm working. You made it, I ain't made it yet, piss off. That's honestly, I wouldn't listen. I'd be like, fuck you. Who the fuck do you think you are? Honestly, I wouldn't listen to myself if I was in high school. I was busy getting my head straight, I was busy working, I was busy, you know, getting things sorted and just getting the grades I needed to get out of here. Like that was it. So I don't think there is anything I would say to myself, to be honest with you. I pretty much played it a pitch perfect. Like obviously, okay, for me year 7 and year 8 were a bit weird because I was like one of the dumbest in school. And then I sort of sat next to this dude in year 9 and I never realized you're supposed to do well at school. You're supposed to be able to answer the questions, you're supposed to be able to understand the work. I didn't realize that at the time, which is weird. I sat next to this dude once in maths, and from there I started getting smart. I learned how to learn. I just copied him basically for the first few weeks, and then I realized, oh fuck, shit's easy. You can actually do well. And after the first few months, I was in. Yeah, and also I had good relations with teachers that didn't have any power. So that's another reason I just wouldn't, like I had good relations with physics teachers, I had good relations with you know, English teachers, but they weren't really like the ones that would make the decisions, I suppose. So I wouldn't get chosen. I mean, what would I get chosen for, right? Because would it be for music? Would it be as a producer coming in saying, you know, hey kids, you can make it. Nah, none of them listen to that, bro. They were trying to make it in medicine, dentistry and shit, innit? I went to an all-boy high school that was basically filled with all Asians. Yeah, no Asians trying to make it in music like that. So would I go back as a poet? I think my English teachers, if they're still there, probably not, to be honest. One of them's probably dead. I feel like as a poet, I'm not much of a role model when it comes to my poetry. I think there's different perspectives you can take as a poem writer, right? When you write, there's different, sometimes implicit perspectives. You have to have a perspective when you write. And I tend to write from what I've noticed as a person of interest. So say you're like an older person who has experience. Some people in this position would write as if they're a mentor. They would write as if they were giving advice to younger people about certain things. So for a lot of poems you'll see about, you know, old age and time, written by older people talking about how you shouldn't waste it and live in the moment, and, you know, little stories and those things like that. I'm not really one of those. I don't really give advice like that. I don't think I'm in any position to give advice. Some people write from the perspective of a victim. So for example, take the same analogy, for example, an old person who's gone through life and now they're talking about it. You know, they might talk from the perspective of a victim of wasting their life. How like, oh, I shouldn't have wasted it, you know. Don't be like me, and I'm the victim of time, and I'm the victim of this and this. I don't even take the victim stance. So a person of interest is basically pretty much the reason why you listen to this. Right? I'm guaranteed you're not listening to this for advice. You're asking me as if I'm a person of interest. You're interested in my opinions, my thoughts. And that's sort of what I am as a poet. I don't write for a purpose. I don't write as a victim. I don't write as telling someone what to do. So the people reading my stuff are just interested in what I have to say. They're more interested in reading my work because they just want to see what I can come up with. And they're interested in how I write and the way that I tie concepts together. That doesn't really bode well when it comes to talking about it. Like if I went back to high school, I'd be like, bro, like it's not really, I think you have to be more of a mentor, more of like a role model when you go back, and that's not me when it comes to poetry. Would I go back as a physicist, as someone who's done physics? That's probably most likely. I feel like the school would ever want to talk to me. They would even think about contacting me, is because, you know, I went through the education system properly. You know, I went to high school, I found out what I wanted, I found my passions, and I applied, you know, for my passion at university, at top university, got in and did the education from there on. So I did come up with some advice I would give to someone at high school. First one being, forget competition. Competition is not important like that. Like, I was never really that competitive. I was competitive as in like knowing where I was, but apart from that, I didn't care. I didn't care if someone beat me by 5%. I didn't care if someone, you know, as long as I did okay, then I'm fine. Like obviously if I got like 50% but the class average was, you know, 40%, I'd be like, okay, calm. But you know, if I got 50 and someone got 55 but the class average was 40, I'm not like, oh no, how did they beat? Nah, I don't care about that. So I feel like the two people you should be in competition with are yourself and the person at the top of the class. I'm not going to chat here and saying don't be top of the class. Be top of the class, bro. So those are the two people you should look at. Just yourself and the person at the top. I think someone else I tended to look at was someone who thought like me. But I think someone, you know, like 5 Foot Giant was someone that if this is the first one, so 5 Foot Giant was a dude I went primary school with. We met in like year 4, so we were 9 years old. I've known him since I was 9, and we've known each other ever since. And so we went to the same primary school, different high school, same sixth form, different unis, etc, etc. He was someone I looked to in his grades in sixth form because he thought like me. We would get similar thought processes. So that was interesting to see what he would get, but not because I was like competing with him. In fact, we memed it. That's another reason why my school didn't find me, because like, we memed it. When it came to exams and stuff, like some people got serious in sixth form and sort of started thinking about the future and started thinking about like, all these exams are like scary and you have to do it well. And yeah, we didn't. So I had 2 friends at sixth form that I stuck with when it came to studying and stuff. One of them went to my uni for engineering, and another one went for engineering at Oxford. And we kind of did meme a lot of it. Like for our S2, one of our maths exams, our S2 exam, we played a game of chicken where the first person to open the paper loses. But just that level obscenity when it came to how much we would meme year 13 and year 12 was crazy. Yeah. So I feel like the school didn't really like me because we didn't really take responsibility. We sort of, because we knew way more than the syllabuses. Because I had a genuine interest in physics and a genuine interest in maths, and we would do like, you know, Oxbridge level interview style questions in our free time to practice. So what was the fucking A-level question to us? But yeah, being competition, you end up with toxic sort of behavior, and you know, this idea of like getting one up on someone else. It's just not fun. It takes all the fun out of the competition, honestly, if you were to have a competition. Like one of me and my friends at GCSE level had a competition where every exam we would do a class test. Whoever beat the other person would get a point. But that wasn't like, I wasn't like in your face, you dickhead. I was like, yes, okay, I've got another one, let's keep going. Like he was beating me for a good, you know, half a year until I caught up with him, and then we sort of left it behind in year 10 because I sort of got quite ahead of him once I figured out how to do stuff. But yeah, that wasn't like a salty competition or toxic competition. That was just a friendly competition. The other advice I'll give is trivial skills become non-trivial when you grow up. So an example of this is communication, because obviously everyone in high school is kind of from the same. So I went to an all-boy grammar school in East London. Everyone's Asian, so you kind of get used to talking to other Asian teenagers. But you know, like right now, for instance, today I had a meeting, right? Well, 2 sub meetings, but one of them, you know, I was talking to someone from Korea, someone from China, someone from like the UK, but like someone from the UK North. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like you have to explain your thoughts and ideas to them, but there's not like that triviality of like they understand. Even my dialect, I have to sort of work through for them. So trust me, communication skills is something you need to learn as you go. Trivial things become non-trivial, i.e. like time management. As a kid, you know, you think, you know, do the work early in the morning, we can play in the evening, etc. Like that sort of idea. Sometimes that doesn't work as an adult. Sometimes you have to manage you manage your time in a different way, and you have to manage your time for other people as well. Things you think are very simple become very unsimple in the future. Try shit out even if it doesn't pay well, and I mean as a hobby. So some people only choose hobbies that, like, when I mean pay well, I don't just mean money, right? Some people choose a hobby because they think I can get some side money from it, or you know, I can sell it, or you know what I mean. I don't think don't do a hobby for that. Do a hobby because you enjoy it, and try shit out. Just try it, bruv. If you think you're interested in it, just try it. Like when I was 17, I tried drawing a comic. Right? I tried drawing a Batman comic, gave up because I couldn't draw Batman the same way twice. Kind of necessary for a comic, but you know, I tried it. I had a whole like storyboard going on and everything. I just couldn't make it work because my art was shit. But I did it, and you know what? It kind of it was like a bit of a foreshadow to my creativity and my ideas to storyboard, but you know, that sort of kind of grew into its own thing, the thought process behind it. So honestly, just try things, and don't do things to act cool. Like if you want to skateboard, for example, don't tell people you're skateboarding just so you can say you're skateboarding and then, you know, show off that you're skateboarding. If you have a hobby, do it, you know, keep on the down low for now. If you're that confident, just do it. Even if you try 5 different things, they all blow up in your face in high school, it doesn't matter. You have the time, you have the skills. Honestly, I wish I picked up a musical instrument. I wish I started drumming in high school. So the person who taught me drumming is a guy called Angel. He's not called Angel, I'm calling him Angel for reasons he knows. If you know his name, you'll know why I used the word Angel. And brilliant drummer. He's a brilliant friend as well, but he's a brilliant drummer. And he taught me to drum. And we were in the same high school together. So we could have drummed from an earlier point in time. And I think for me, I sort of have a 5-year rule that I've kind of come up with. Is if you do something for 5 years, you know, not on and off, but you try something for 5 years. And normally I would say you'd get somewhere. But sometimes if you try things for 5 years, you could make it into a career. If you've got a hobby and you do it for 5 years and you become quite good at it, or you think you find an opportunity to do it well, it could become a career. So honestly, for me, 5 years is a good enough time to know whether or not you should take it to the next level or just carry on for fun. Because a lot of hobbies do have a career path attached to them. Say music production. A lot of people can get very good in 5 years. But can you like make it a job or not? You'll see in about 5 years time. But you'll get to a very competent stage at 5 years. So like even for me, I don't make music just to sell. I make music for myself. I make music because it's fun. I make music to express. Would I be doing it if I didn't get paid? Hell yes. And plus, if anything, you'll just gain as a person. You'll get better and more experience as a person. And you'll gain skills that you are transferable. And the last thing is learn how to learn, not just memorize. I think for me, I learned how to learn as a young kid. I was always a learner. I wasn't a memorizer. I still can't memorize. My memory is shit. It's average at best. I'm a much better learner, a concept person. I like, holding things in my hands and manipulating them. I don't like, dealing with 15 different information facts and putting them, that's bullshit. A computer could do that. For me, it's the human element of putting things together, manipulating things and creatively coming up with solutions. And I think that's sort of where you need to concentrate on. As you realize, a lot of problem solving, a lot of creativity is kind of needed as you get older. Next question is, what would you class as some of your lowest moments? We're staying light. So I have written down one. So I'm only going to talk about one because I'm not in the mood to talk about this shit, but I'll talk about one. So back in first year of university, I ended up getting in a bit of a... So I ended up getting stabbed. My waist was split open twice, and I made my way to a hospital. You know, I mean, I wrote an entire poetry collection about this called Deutsch in Deutschland, the idea of being foreign in a foreign land. And the reason why I specified this moment, I didn't feel human. I felt like a collection of different things that were trying to work out something. I didn't feel like, or trying to get to somewhere. I didn't really necessarily even feel like a human being. And so I, got split open, and I made my way to a hospital, Chelsea Westminster Hospital in South Kensington. And, I got stitched up and everything, and they let me out about like 4 a.m. in the morning. And I had to make a decision. So I made my way to the lobby area and sat in a chair. I had my boxing equipment and everything because I'd been boxing that evening. Do I want to go home? Oh, at this point, so it was a homeless man that stabbed me. I should probably be clear. There wasn't no like, are they still out there? Sort of. It was just a homeless dude. He was a bit off his rocker. So I had to make a decision. What do I do now? And obviously I was at uni, so I was living at home at the time. And I was like, do I want to go back home and sleep in the bed I grew up in? No, I didn't want to spend the night in there. So I decided, I'll make my way to South Kensington Station. It's a good amount of walk to clear my head. And yeah, so I just kept walking. I walked past the station and ended up in Hyde Park. And I slept on the bench that night. This is a cold winter's night as well. And it felt like an eternity later, I'm guessing half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour later, I felt really cold. Obviously, I was stationary on a bench at like -5 in London. It wasn't good. And I was raised off the ground. I learned that at least from survival stuff. Like, don't sleep on the ground, sleep off the ground, because the cold comes through the ground. And yeah, so I was freezing cold. Like any little gap where my skin was showing, and I was sweating before, wasn't I? So I was already freezing cold because of the sweat. But like any little gap on my skin was like freezing cold. So I don't know, like at this point I was like half asleep, half awake sort of situation. And I saw a bin, and this bin so in London at least, there's these bins and they have like ashtrays on the top. And I remember taking a little towel that I just always have a towel on me if I go boxing, just in case. My thought process was ash equals hot. But I wasn't thinking right, was I? I wasn't a human being. I was just a collection of thoughts and wanting to feel warm. And I was hungry, obviously, but I'd been hungry before. So that wasn't a big thing. I knew I wouldn't die of hunger. Like some part of me was like, you've been through too much to die from hunger. So I walked my way to the bin, and I scooped the ash and put it into this towel, and basically went back to the bench and slept again. And I was cradling this towel of cold ash, which I in my head perceived as hot because ash was hot. So yeah, it's probably my lowest moment. Where does your confidence come from? Bitch, what confidence? I'm not a confident person. I'm not confident myself. I'm confident in what I do. Like I don't trust myself. But do I trust 1 + 1 is 2? Yeah. Therefore I trust stuff. Like logically I can trust things. But I think for me, it's like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out. I'll just try something else, right? Does it matter? Like, what are the genuine consequences for things not working out? And that's kind of why I became a physicist rather than like something I wanted to do actually. Because I decided I wanted to be a physicist from like 12 years old. Because I'd always loved science, I hated maths, but I kind of grew to love it. And then year 9 onwards, I loved it. Someone who does theoretical physics, you have to love maths, and I really do. But at like 17, 18, part of me was like, I hadn't considered another career choice, and I kind of thought, what else could I be? And part of me actually really wanted to be a surgeon, like genuinely. Like I could have done it, I had the grades, I had everything for it, but I could have been a surgeon. That was another, in another universe, I'm a surgeon. For me, the consequences are too severe. You fuck up as a surgeon, yeah, you fucked. But as a theoretical physicist, it sort of felt like, if you do great, you're like a great like wow, you've solved something. Like for theoretical physics, it's like you're expected to fail basically, and doing something genuinely good is huge. Versus surgeon is like there's no room for error. You're expected to do good. There's no expectation for you to do bad. You cannot afford that shit. In the stuff that I do and the fields that I do stuff in, like music and directing and stuff, I do it on such a level. I feel like no one else is doing stuff like me. In like music and like album making and videos and stuff, no one else is doing it like me. So even if we do kind of flop, no one else is doing it, so who cares, right? Like if I flop, for example, making toast in the morning and I keep setting it on fire, Obviously I'll lose confidence in my toast making abilities because everyone else can make fucking toast, why can't I? But obviously not everyone else can make, you know, an album about this and this and this, and it's like, I'm not going to lose confidence because yeah, I tried it, but we'll just try again if it fucks up. Don't worry. That's like kind of the album making process anyway. I'm fucking up a lot of times till you make it right. I'm not confident, but at the same time I don't care what people think. I don't have time to be a people pleaser. Do you know how difficult it is to be a people pleaser, bruv? I don't have time for that. These people pleasers are out here suffering for other people. I don't have time for that. So from a young age, I started making decisions. You know, at like 12 years old, I made the conscious decision to split myself from my family, to compartmentalize and put them in the box. So when I deal with them, I open the box. And they only exist in this box for me. Any issues, any problems, because there was a lot of problems going up in my family, the box. You know, that was my way of like, I was like separating myself, and I told myself when I'm going to go older, I'm not going to have any of the problems. I'm not going to take any of the problems into my future life. I'm not going to take any of their sort of inhibitions. I'm not going to take any of the wrong stuff. I'm going to take only the lessons I've learned and move forward, which I genuinely have done. So I can pat myself on the back for that. So I didn't have the luxury of having other people's opinions and thoughts. So by doing all these decisions and all these things alone, I've gained confidence in myself because I've done it alone all the time. I don't rely on other people, and I never have. It's because if you grow up relying on other people, you kind of put that implicit weight of other people's opinions in your head. So even when you're not trying to make a decision with them and they say something, you could take into account. But I don't really do that. Obviously, if it's a mutual joint decision, obviously I make a conscious effort to put them in there. But I think another thing is people confuse confidence and the will to do things. I think I have the will and the power to do things, but I don't have the confidence sometimes. Like a lot of people tell me to be more confident in what I'm doing. A lot of the time actually, especially when it comes to the directing stuff. Like I'm not sure you can do this, and the other co-director's like, bro, we'll do it, man. We'll throw another this much money at it, don't worry. We'll make your stuff work. But I think when people spend a lot of time and they have the will and the genuine like want to do things, I think there comes this sense of entitlement that comes with the confidence. And I think entitlement is something I will never know. I have very low self-esteem and low self-worth. Like in every room, I say I'm like the worst. I'm the least valuable. I'm the most disposable. Like a disposable bag, right? Yeah. Disposable mask. Topical. It's like mock the week. And again, growing up, people told me to be more entitled. They told me, you know, this is yours, you should be doing this. I still have pride in what I do though. Because I do, you know, spend time doing things, and I entitle myself to this time to do things. So set aside it myself when I should actually expect to have time to do it, if that makes sense. So one of the things I'm getting used to doing is saying no to people. Because a lot of people, now in the position I'm in, a lot of people come to me with serious things. You know, whether it be serious in a very serious need to sort out now way, or serious as in, you know, like the Super Bowl show is something I'm considering, you know, whether I want to do it or not with Abel, whether I want to be, I mean, I'm definitely going to be working on the, you know, the concepts and the ideas board, but I don't know if I'm going to be on, you know, the actual creating board yet. I still need to weigh up my options and see if I have time for that. And yeah, I think another thing is people think that confidence entitles them, like they think they have the skill because they're more confident, they're more willing to do it. But some people just aren't confident but probably can do a better job. And then this is one of the things with people who grow up, you know, learning from themselves, is they cling on to the old a lot. And this is something I've had to learn to stop doing. So for example, PewDiePie recently, so he is someone I can clearly tell has learned to do things himself. He even said it himself. It's funny because he was using Bandicam to record his screen and do stuff. And he was getting made fun of by KSI because obviously OBS is a thing that people use nowadays. And he was like, but that's the way I did it before, so why it still works, so why not do it now? And I genuinely saw myself in that, because I used to love, if it works, why change it? So one of the things I used to hate when it came to maths at least, especially like, you know, when you come to doing different ways of doing things, is if one way works, why do I have to learn another way? That just complicates it in my head. Like I was so apprehensive about learning programming, because it's like, oh, it's a new thing and I don't know, like why can't we just do it on the calculator? Why do I have to do it on a program? Like, but then I got used to it, obviously. I grew up here and just learned it. Because I know, and the psychology is, I know no one's gonna be able to help me this. I don't think people are gonna help me. I don't assume I'm gonna get any advice. I just assume I'm gonna have to spend lots of time figuring it out and going through a lot of pain and a lot of hassle trying to get things working. Because I don't think I'm entitled. in that way to any help. I just know I have to do it myself. Another question, can you speak any other language? If so, do you read literature from that culture / in that language? No, I grew up with parents that spoke another language from the home country that they came from. I can understand them completely. I can understand to the point where it's like English to me. I can't speak it. My older sister can speak both, and she can speak a more generalized version as well, which is quite interesting, but I can't. I mean, so even in like high school, I took French GCSE and I struggled with that. I really struggled with it. I did it for 5 years. Je m'appelle Wayman, for example. No, that's Spanish. Okay. I was going to say ¿Cómo estás? That's literally what I know. Oh, j'habite la East Londres, I think. Like literally every writing used to start the same way, and that's why I know it. That's all I know in French. It's really bad because it's memorization, man. I don't memorize shit, man. You know this. Actually, that's my proudest GCSE though. My French GCSE is my best GCSE in my opinion. I got a C in that. So I kind of mugged off that C because basically I got like a C and a D or something in my writing. In language GCSE, you're based on your ability to speak it, write it, listen to it and read it. And so for my writing, you do it throughout your sort of high school years, and then by the end they submit your 2 best ones. And so I wrote, one of my best ones was a C grade, and she lost it. However, she was photocopying everyone's work, marking it, correcting things and giving it back so we do better in the next writing. However, she lost one of our courseworks because it's school in East London. Of course they lost our coursework, but she was like, all right, calm down. What I'm going to let you do is I'm going to let you recopy if you still have the photocopy, I'll let you recopy it out and submit it as if that was the original. What I did was I copied it down with the corrections. So when the moderator saw my work, it got moderated up because she gave it a C. But when she obviously did the corrections, it was like an A piece of work. So the guy was like, what do you mean? Why is this a C? This is like an A. So everyone's work got moderated and I ended up getting a B in my writing. I got like a B in the writing, like a B in the reading, a C in the speaking, and a U in the listening. Because some dickhead, the teacher, right, one of the teachers that was in charge of it, came to the fucking exam with a water bottle, a plastic water bottle full of ice, because it's summer, and a plastic bag. How am I supposed to listen to shit? But I mean that was like, so I remember I was put on a list in my school because I was predicted 11 A stars and a C. It's a bit weird, isn't it? I think I ended up getting like 7 A stars, like 4 A's. The 4 A's was some bullshit because I didn't memorize. I didn't really revise for the exams. And then I got to the exam and realized I don't know shit. Like biology, you have to memorize so much for biology. I didn't realize. I went in the exam thinking I'll work this out like physics and chemistry. Nah, you have to memorize. So yeah, I kind of thought that I got an A in bio. But yeah, I got like 7 A stars, like 4 A's and a C. And that C is my best one. Would you have done a music degree / English degree if you started music / writing earlier? No. I think for me, my writing and my music comes from expression and feeling, and you can't learn that. That's why a lot of people who have music degrees and writing degrees, or English degrees, sorry, aren't as good as some people. Like how many people who are like that influential and that top in their field in music and English, whatever, and writing, actually have the genuine degrees made for it? Or even in music, a lot of them don't have degrees. So yeah, nah, I wouldn't. It kind of like clinicizes the whole process. It makes it weird and sterile. Whereas for me, it's it's an expression of thought and feeling. So no. Why do you use so many names? So my mental health plays a big part in this, and I think it's the idea of, again, self-esteem, self-worth. But I think it plays a part of being split into so many different things. And so I'm known as Cinnamon. I'll quickly go for the names. So Cinnamon is a song by Nina Simone. It's got a very nice hi-hat throughout it. It's like, I think it was played on Sherlock as well, now that I think about it. It was like, run to the river, and the river said, go to the rock, and the rock said, it was that song. I love that song. And I listened to it actually on my way back from Warwick, when I went in first year uni on a trip, and where I found hip hop basically. One of my friends, let's call him the mathematician, taught me about hip hop. and that's basically where everything started. So yeah, then Cinnamon kind of was the inception. Another name I go by is Wayman Iblis Jones. So Wayman being Nina Simone's second name before she changed it to Nina Simone. Iblis is an interesting one. So Iblis in the Quran and in Islam is kind of like the Islamic version of Lucifer. So Iblis was an angel born from fire, like the rest of the angels, I believe, in the Quran. And I'm just gonna say God for now. We're not gonna call God any name. And so this one God was like made the angels and said, you bow to me, you answer to no one else. And then later on, he obviously made humans. And I think in the Quran, they're from the smoke of the fire, I believe. And, God made the angels, and then he made humans. And then he told the angels, you work for the humans, bow down to the humans. But Iblis was like, no, you told me and all the rest of the angels only to bow down to you and listen to you only. So obviously there was a bit of a conflict of interest, and HR was like, you know what, Iblis, you are in the wrong. And so God basically smited him and told him to fuck off from heaven or whatever. So obviously Iblis thought he was doing the right thing, right? Because he was obeying God, not bound down to anyone but the merciful one. Whereas God saw it as an act of betrayal. However, it's an interesting one because so either the Shias or the Sunnis believe that Iblis is actually like Job, like someone who believed in God right to the end, even though God was punishing him. And that's what some people believe. One of the groups believe Iblis to be a good person, the ultimate basically servant of God who even took punishment from God. And some people say he's a snake, he's a betrayer, like in the Bible. And I think he's a person who's quite polarizing. And at the start of my career, that's how I thought I was. Obviously, I mean, I am a polarizing figure, I suppose. I make music that's quite thought-provoking. Also, I thought it would be really funny if just this white person just calls out the name Iblis out of nowhere. Like, imagine I entered a poem written by Lucifer. Yeah, I just found that really funny, that concept. And Jones, Nas is last name. I think it says Nazir or Larubin Jones or something. So yeah, if it's good enough for Nas, it's good enough for me. And I think I chose Wayman because I didn't want a name that was obviously Asian or obviously white or obviously black. Like, I didn't want a name that was like easily traced to a region. And it's a name that kind of commands respect in a way, isn't it? Wayman. I don't know, I kind of like it, Another name I used to go by, well, I still do technically, although I haven't been in a while, is in my boxing gym. I'm kind of known by Twinkle. A lot of people call me Twinkle because the main coach used to call me, or it still does, I suppose, I just haven't been, Twinkle Toes, because of how light and good my footwork was. He used to call me Twinkle Toes. I was an 85 kg light heavyweight called Twinkle Toes. It wasn't the best, but it was fun. I didn't mind it. So that was another name I used to go by, but unofficially. I mean, my real name is it's a female name. Despite what my dad said, it's a female name. Actually, I remember, So, okay, the reason why I still stayed away from my real name, obviously for identity and it's just more fun to use a pseudonym, but also I didn't feel like I was worth it. So I was sort of like, accidentally started this journey of trying to become better as a person. And I feel like the name given to me by my parents, I don't know, it has a certain innocence to it. And I feel like I'm working until, when I can actually use my real name as my name and feel like it's my real name. I think like that marks quite an important point in my life, I suppose. Am I there yet? No, I don't think so. We'll see in the future. Biggest celebrity you've met? So there is one person that I'd shit my pants if I met. I'd be absolutely starstruck. Adele. Most people know I fucking love Adele. Oh my Jesus Christ, I would actually shit my pants. That's the one person I would ever get starstruck about. Other big names, I don't know, like maybe Kanye. Is Kanye kind of big? I mean, he did run for president. Kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's big just because he's in the news and stuff, but maybe Kanye. Hans Zimmer, maybe. This is someone else I've, worked with a little bit on some stuff. Maybe even Banksy. I think Banksy's just big because of the mysterious nature of him. I think that's why people like him and people sort of put him on a pedestal. Like, his Instagram comments are crazy. Like, he just gets sucked off in the comments. Jesus Christ. But is Bill big? I feel like she's getting, I don't know. It's only been a couple years, right? Have you ever had any songs on repeat? So I think this question was asked because I listen to albums. I don't really listen to, I don't have a playlist like that. I don't have like songs playlists of my favorite stuff. I just listen to albums if I'm feeling a certain type of way. Like for me, I normally have 2 albums I listen to together. Like not one year the other. I mean like I'll listen to an album maybe in the morning, another in the evening, and over the next few days I'll listen to it on repeat a bit, and then let it sink in, think about the album, and then move on to another 2. But I actually have had music on repeat. Like I don't really rinse shit. I feel like people rinse music. I think in general people rinse stuff. Like they like a favorite food and they'll just rinse it until they're sick of it. I did that with almond milk. I actually really like the taste and now I'm sick of it. I've given it a couple of years. But so actually back in the lab report days when I used to do lab reports. So lab reports I used to basically spend 10 in the morning till 10 in the evening straight 12 hours working on it with eating breaks in between, and that was it. So I needed something to keep me a bit engaged and listen to something but at the same time work. And for me, I needed songs that were like the same kind of throughout, on the same sort of tempo and the same sort of like energy, but were still high energy or like had a certain energy to them. So for example, I used to listen to a Thundercat song. I think it was that Tron song or something. Reason, I think on the second song of his album, like There You Have It or something. And Starboy by Weeknd. That's kind of how I found Starboy. And that's kind of how I found The Weeknd. I started listening to, that's the only song I actually listened to at that point. So yeah, I listened to him for 12 hours straight before I met him. What's something people don't know about you? Oh, so I didn't know this. So I think it started when I was growing up. Right? So my dad is someone who would change shop just because it's 40p less in another shop. Like he still does that shit, which is fair enough. And so what he would do when he would go shopping is for soap and body gels and everything, he would get the cheapest one on the shelf for my family growing up. And a lot of this aimed at females, and some of them were just unisex, some of them were male. So my family just used whatever there was. So I never really had the inclination that one was for female, one was for male. I would just use whatever there was. So I kind of carried on this habit, and it's kind of a game now. I kind of like it. I always use a different soap. I try get something different. I just like trying different things, different soaps. Like some people settle, I didn't realize this, but some people just buy a soap and settle on it. How, bruv? How is your curiosity not piqued at these different flavors and not flavors, but different scents and all these different things? And like, what does this smell like? Ooh. And I will sometimes just buy the female ones because it looks interesting. Like, I don't think there should be a difference between female and male soaps apart from just how they're advertised and the scent. Because a lot of male ones are quite perfumey, right? They're not really fruity, and I feel like sometimes in the summer I like the fruity ones. So yeah, sometimes I'll use whatever soap like looks interesting, and I'll keep changing up. Like right now, I'm not sure if this is soap to be used in this way, but it's called Imperial Leather, and they have like honey blossom and lavender ones. I'm quite onto that right now. But you know what? Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna put you on something, right? And you're gonna thank me or you're gonna hate me. Peppermint soap. So me and 5 Foot Giant were in Oxford, and he lived with quite rich housemates. And we went there. We lived in the house. They weren't there, but like they left some soap, a half bottle of soap. And 5 Foot Giant was like, "We'll just use this, whatever." And it was peppermint soap. It was hot, obviously. It was summer. We'd be on the train there, so it was like a little bit clammy. And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna have a shower." So he went in the shower, and then I went in the shower. So he didn't mention it. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll just use the soap. I got in the shower and the soap's feeling bare nice on my body, right? It's like, whoa, so it's peppermint. So it's like feeling cold. It's like this reaction on my body, which is like, do you know when you eat peppermint gum and it feels cold in your mouth? It's all like that on your body. It's crazy. And I never felt this before. And I think from his reaction afterwards so I was like, okay, calm. I didn't think to myself, what would it feel like on my privates? Jesus Christ, I genuinely started panicking for 5 seconds. Like, it's burning. And then I got braver and I started putting on a little bit. I was like, this feels so nice. Yeah, so trust me, peppermint soap, it will either feel so exhilarating. I don't know. So I'm talking from the perspective of men. I don't know if you're a female, I don't know if it's the same. Peppermint on your balls does not feel good until you do it for the second time. It's scary the first time, but the second time feels nice. It's very, like, especially we would go out and like be on a bike all day in Oxford and then come back and be like, I'd be sweating, so we'd go in the shower, it'd be like 30 degrees, you go in the shower and peppermint on your fucking balls is amazing. And your body and stuff, it feels so nice and cold. But I don't know if females is the same. Hey, if you're a female, buy some peppermint soap and message me. Like, I'm not even joking, I'm kind of excited to know if it works. Not soap, it's like a gel or whatever. It should be the same. How serious are you with your photography? Okay, so I'm not too serious. Like, okay, so we'll try a lot of concept things. For example, a recent photo we took was of a woman in a hijab, and one of the things we tried focusing was the idea of a focal plane. And so we kind of put her left eye or right eye, depending on which way you're looking at it, on the focal plane, and one of the eyes just off. And we wanted her body a bit slanted. So this was with Anton. I think this one was with Anton. And so I sort of slanted her body a little bit, and we wanted that sort of out of focus, in focus look. Because if you look at it, just looking at it, she looks in focus, but she's actually like playing with the focal plane a little bit, and she's off a bit. So that's just a playful picture we did. I love the actual pictures we do are a bit more fun than that. That was more like a professional sort of stuff, but the ones that I get paid for, the ones that we fuck about with, like the after hours stuff. So so I can obviously, because our albums come out, I can talk about the after hours photography. So if you look at the album artwork, right, it's Abel's face. He's sort of quite close to the camera, and he's glaring, almost sneering at the camera. So the way this came about was, so obviously you had the red suit and everything and the character. We're not going to talk about that, but just the idea of the photo itself. So I used to, obviously, as I said, coming home from boxing quite late. So when I used to start a lot, I wasn't that great at guarding. So I used to come home with a lot of like split lips, and gums used to bleed a little bit because of the chafing of the mouth guard and certain things like that. And I remember, every time I would come home, I'd sort myself out, put my bags away, and then I'd look in the mirror, and I'd have to, maybe I'd have a dry nose bleed or something. So I'd have to look up and try to look into my nose and look into my mouth, and I'd take down my lip and look if there's any cuts or anything, just to make sure. And I'd look at my body to see if the bruises are bad. If you try to look at your gums in the mirror, you're going to end up doing what Abel's doing. And that's where that picture came from. Obviously, I wasn't anywhere near as bloody as him. We played that up and everything for the character. But that's where that picture came from. Me after boxing looking to see if I've got cuts on my gums. That's where that photo came from. Are there going to be any features? I guess you're asking about this trilogy project? Actually, so apart from obviously the people I've sampled. So if I've sampled your voice, right? If I've sampled anyone, it means I fuck with them. It means I like who they are as a person. I like either them, I just like who they are as a person. I use a lot of YouTubers. Like Call Me Kevin is the first voice you hear, which is jokes. Time to make some bad life decisions, and I've timed it on the beat as well. So actually the one person I didn't put on this was Nerd Cubed, who has actually been a big influence on me. So I couldn't fit everyone obviously, but yeah, so if I put your voice on this, I was gonna say if you want me to take off your voice, I can. Like if you hear this for some reason and don't like the fact that your voice is on my project, I'll take it off, it's calm. Yeah, it just means I really like who you are as a person. I like your energy, or I like, something either about the quote itself, or I like you as a person. Either one. Oh, actually, there is actually a feature on this album. So, 5 Foot Giant sent me a piano. So he's been practicing piano. He sent me a piano file that he made. I think it's like the one with the Tom Scott talking over it. That one. And yeah, it's interesting actually because it sounds like he's playing piano to the voice, but he sent that piano version completely without, he just sent it because he was proud of himself that he did it. So I featured him, but so he's playing piano on that part. It's not professional, it's just him. So yeah, he's the only feature, I suppose. Do you believe supersymmetry is the future of physics, or is there another path? Okay, so now we've got to the meme questions. I actually know the answer to this. So, fuck it, I'm going to answer. You asked, I'm going to answer. So, supersymmetry actually is something that doesn't seem to be a solution anymore. So it was supposed to be found. So there's this graph I'm thinking on my head, and it's got energy on the bottom, or mass energy on the bottom, and like some sort of intensity scale on the left, on the vertical axis. And in CERN they did lots of experiments, and they were supposed to at certain high energies find supersymmetry. They found nothing. So supersymmetry doesn't seem to be the way the universe works. And so now they're looking for different ways of doing it. And one of the biggest candidates for solving the standard model and completing it in a sense is hidden particles, dark matter, stuff like dark photons, dark scalars, dark vectors, all these things. So yeah, we think that it's actually not supersymmetry, it's actually in hidden particles, and there are particles we haven't seen that don't interact or, decay very quickly, or all these things. You asked, I answered, right? I like your cut, G. I haven't had a haircut in so long, like since summer. I should really get one. As soon as this lockdown's done, I need to go get a haircut. Or even multiple hairs cut. Alright, what is your biggest fear? We're back on the serious questions. So my biggest fear is actually basically the other side of the coin of my biggest dream, which is interesting. So my biggest fear, right? Let's take an example my biggest fear is getting into a loveless marriage, and in that loveless marriage, having kids, having a job I hate, and just using it basically to survive. I'm basically living a life I don't want to. But the fact that I'm, got a marriage and I've had kids and I've got this job means I'm in too deep to even change at this point, and that's my worst fear. So in a way, my worst fear is basically being bored with life. Like, for example, imagine Christmas. So I never really had a proper Christmas, right? And that's one of the things I do want to have in the future, a Christmas. Imagine Christmas morning, right? So, you've bought your kids some presents or whatever, not out of love, not because you think it's a cool present, they genuinely like it, or not because you know what they like, but just because it's a present. You've bought something and you just hope they like it. You're not too excited. You wake up, your gift's already there for them. They get up, they go downstairs, whatever. If you have a kid or multiple kids, n number of kids, whatever. N between 1 and whatever. We're not going to say infinity, that's a bit much. An infinite amount of kids does seem to be a bit much, doesn't it? And they go downstairs, whatever. They open their presents, and you turn to your wife and you're like, so well, what now? And you're basically in this loveless marriage, and you make breakfast, you're not that happy, you get your kids are like, thanks for the present that you bought, but obviously didn't spend any time thinking about. You invite some friends and family around, because you don't really like your wife, you don't really like your friends, you're bored as a man, as a fucking 40 something year old man, just sitting in a room. Much rather be anywhere else, to the point where you'd rather be at the job you hate than in this room with these people you don't like. And the day ends and you realized, all that for what? I feel empty and horrible inside. And because I feel horrible and empty, the people around me probably are feeling that a little bit too, and I'm just a downer for this whole situation. Now let's flip that. You're with someone you really, really enjoy their company with. You have a wife that is amazing, that you really do genuinely think is an amazing person. You grow with them every single day, and they basically your best friend. You have kids because of this loving marriage. You have kids that you genuinely like and have an interest in, and have shared moments with. So you get them a gift you think about. And that's the thing, when I mean getting a gift for your kids, it's not like spoiling them, right? There is obviously a limit to certain things, but like I feel like that appreciation, right, that level of interest in their own well-being is kind of needed. And you give them a gift that you're excited to see them open it, because I much prefer giving gifts than accepting them. I think most people know this. And you're interested, you want to see them open it, you want to see their eyes light up, and you and your wife are both, you discuss this, and you're both interested, and you wake up, you make breakfast because you're in a good mood, and your food's going to be better if you're in a good mood. Later on in the day, some family friends come or whatever, and maybe it's your wife's friends, for example, but you actually have an interest in your wife, and you've actually made an effort with her friends, therefore they also your friends, and you actually like spending time with them, and you actually enjoy catching up with them and talking to them. And at the end of the day, when everyone's asleep, you're thinking to yourself, that was a good day, I actually really enjoyed that, I really like that, and I really like the people in my life. To me, those are completely my worst fear and my biggest ever sort of dream. My biggest dream is to be happy. So I don't know if I'm selfish or not. That's one of the things I have to think to myself. And I think it will come with, if I ever meet someone, that discussion I have with them will kind of decipher, I feel like. Because it's obviously, if I have a family, it's going to be with that person, so that person has to be involved. So there's not, even if I do sort it out in my head, I'm going to have to re-sort it out with them anyway. But one of the things is, because obviously I grew up with a family that didn't get along much, fought all the time, so many traumatic experiences I've had. You know, I've seen, you know, my mom hit my dad hit my mom hit my sister hit my mom. Like, it's kind of crazy, not gonna lie. A bit like a Royal Rumble sometimes growing up, and it was horrendous, right? It made me feel sick inside. Is this weird? But growing up, I used to like take into account when my parents, what they were doing, and in my head I would like say, if I'm ever going to be a father, if I'm ever going to be a parent, this is what I would do in this situation. This is what I would make mental notes as I grew up. Like, I was thinking about how to be a good father to a kid at like 8 years old. Is that weird? I don't know. Like, one of the things I never had growing up was personal touch. Like, the only time my dad ever touched me was to slap me. Like, once a day on my birthday, he would hug me, and then that was it. And on his birthday, I'd hug him. And then the rest of the time, he was slapping me. Like, personal touch is something I would, you know, actually invest in as a parent. So I don't know if wanting to have a family and a loving family, if that's just me trying to be selfish, trying to have something I didn't have growing up. But even if I do have a loving family at the end of the day, and I did it for selfish reasons, but I still had a loving family and everyone sort of grew from that and sort of became healthy people, is that a bad thing? I don't know. I haven't decided if it's a bad thing or not. So I don't know. I feel like I'm being selfish, wanting that for selfish reasons, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. I think it's also, you know, linked to my charity work. So I do a lot of charity work, and the reason why I do this is because, like, I help a lot of young kids, because for me, I grew up with traumatic experiences. I don't want other people to have that. So I use the pain and, you know, the traumatic experiences growing up to make music, to make literature. I get money from that, and I invest that money back into the people who are growing up, and I want to help them avoid situations and ending up like me. But I'm doing it for selfish reasons, because I don't want them to live like me. So I don't know. So it's all that sort of psychology. I don't know if you should do it like that, but yeah. Okay, next question. What is your greatest asset? So definitely 100% my imagination. If I didn't have an imagination, I'd just be like every other dickhead. Not even joking. Because I feel like human experience is only limited to what you can do, right? Even if you went out and set out on a journey to do everything you can, there's a limit to what you can do. Whereas imagination can take you to places you can't do, and take you to places you physically can't get to. I was a very imaginative kid. Like, I had an overreactive mind. Like, the worst thing was horror movies, obviously, right? I would watch half of a horror movie and fucking freak out. It's kind of crazy. Like, Coraline, I vomited watching that shit. I genuinely vomited watching that shit on Halloween. But, you know, I would entertain myself for hours as a kid. You know, as a kid, I used to go to weddings, and my sister's like 12 years older than me, and that's sort of the age of my family friends as well. My generation technically would be like 12 years older than me. So I wouldn't have anyone to talk to. It would just be me by myself. My sister was 3 years older than me, but she'd be with them, or, you know, she'd talk to my mum or dad. I would just be by myself. And so my imagination kept me going for many, many, many years. And this was the time where there's no mobile phones. I grew up in the time where literally a mobile phone meant a brick. Like, the only game, I remember one time that I was on my mum's phone on her calendar, and I wanted to see what year the calendar went up to. It turns out it goes up to like 2060 something. It wasn't even that far. Do you have a technique that allows you to switch off and sleep? So growing up, I used to have this thing called thinking time, where an hour before I would sleep, I'd give myself 1 hour just to let my mind explore things. Again, use my imagination. I used to love it. And I would come up with stories in my head. I would come up with different ideas. I used to have thinking time. Not too much anymore, because my thinking time is sort of my job. So now, not really. Sleep has always been an issue for me, but I feel like, yeah, not really. I don't really have one. If I sleep, I sleep well. If I don't, I don't. What are your favorite quotes? I live my life, basically my daily life at least, through 3 quotes. Each one like a perturbation on the other, basically. Like, the first one's most important, the second one's second important, third one third important. And I think it's how I sort of go about my day. And these are my daily sort of things I go through. I don't think of them like, which one should I do today? And it's not like that. And the first quote is, definition is important. You need to define things in your life, otherwise things will get messy. And I got this basically from physics. In physics, I was always told define your equations, define the terms in your equations, define everything. And it really does help. Because you think right now, oh, don't worry, I don't need to define it, or I'll remember it, but trust me. And this defining everything, defining what your time. If you're doing something, is it work? Is it play? Is it, is it for someone else? Is it for you? Defining what it is important. If you buy a new cereal and you're eating cereal, defining it as healthy or unhealthy is quite useful, because sometimes you won't think about it and you might, overeat an unhealthy cereal if you don't define it. Defining relationships with people, defining, saying to your head, all right, this person is a colleague, these areas of my life they have access to, but not these. This person's a friend, they have access to this, but we're not going to talk about this or this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously I don't make a list or nothing, but mentally I just go, I define things very well. So it's quite important to put things in their place. The second one is stay hungry, stay humble. So the first one's more about how I should go about introducing things or doing things. This is more about how I should act in doing these things. So once I've set everything up, this is how I'm moving, basically. And yeah, I think this is basically stolen off strategy, Joshua. Stay hungry, want to be the best, want to be good at what you do, want to stay hungry, want to get more information, want to, do everything. But at the same time, stay humble, right? Don't, just because you have got to that point, doesn't mean you can stop bragging, doesn't mean you can stop putting it in people's faces. Just stay humble. No one likes a dickhead. No one wants to be a dickhead. Don't be a dickhead, alright? Stay humble, but stay hungry as well. Don't ever feel like you've overeaten. You want more. Just because you made it doesn't mean you've made it, basically. And don't fuck with mortal men is my last quote. This one's a bit complicated, I feel like. Not complicated, but it's got a bit of a double meaning. And the idea is, first of all, don't do things that aren't going to last. Don't do things that are like very limited and just here for a short amount of time. Don't do things, for example, like some people like do things for like 15 minutes of fame sort of lifestyle. Don't do that. Do something that's going to have longevity, do something that's going to last, do something that's going to, make an impact at least. Even if the thing you make doesn't last, hopefully its impact will. That's kind of how I make every album, that's kind of like how I live. That's how I make my decisions as well. Some people want to hire me for a song that I know they just want because it's going to be a hit, and I'm like, nah, leave it. If they want to hit me up for an album, I'll think about it and I'll work with them, but just for a hit like that, nah, it's not worth it. Don't fuck with mortal men. And a lot of people in your own personal life will come to you, not only like work and stuff, but even in your personal life, they're mortal. They want you either because they've heard about something about you and they want, or like they're just here for bullshit. I'm here for the depth, the understanding, the insight, and I think that's important. But also don't fuck with mortal men, because I think deep down they know they're mortal, right? They know they're only here for a short time. They know what they're doing is bullshit, and so they're willing to cut you down. So if you end up beefing people, I don't beef people, right? I don't think anyone would want to beef me, but I feel like if you are going to get into some altercation, just don't fuck with them. If I'm going to clash someone, I'm going to clash someone who's immortal, right? Gods fight gods. I'm not that I'm a god or anything, but like in that way of thinking, right? Gods don't pick a fight on humans. That's petty. So why would I fuck up? Why would I spend my time thinking about anyone mortal? That's the 3 quotes I live by, I suppose. So the first one's about how I set things up and how I sort of structure things. The second one's how I move. And the third one is sort of the constraints and, the wariness of things. Where do you go mentally/physically to be more creative? Or if you are having a mental block? So my first answer is I just let them happen. I don't go, oh no, you start panicking and stuff, you're just going to block up more. It's just going to get worse and worse, and it's not going to get any. You can't outthink a mental block. You just have to let creativity hit you. But one of the things I do is, and I'm quite happy about this, is in most things I do. So unless you're in a complete creative job, for example, take me in directing. Imagine the way I direct now is basically my job. I don't think it could be because I would barely do anything. So I'm on the only creative side of the directing. I work with the director of photography. I work with the co-directors. I work with we're the concept people. I work on purely concept, mapping everything out. But once I've done all that, my job's done, right? We send it off, all the professionals shoot it, get all the good stuff. And then the editors take care of it. They do a first editing job on it. Then they come back to us, say, is this all right? We say yes or no or whatever, can you color grade this way? Can you do this way? Send it back, they come again with all my notes with the notes that hopefully changed according to my notes. Sometimes my notes are actually wrong. Sometimes they look better before. And then, you know, I have a second set of notes for them. And then they'll come back third time, and sometimes even fourth and fifth. Sometimes. Depending on what like level the video is at. Sometimes it's just the second time and it's done. And so in that way, I'm a pure creative. I don't do any of the technical work. I don't do any of like the camera work. I don't do any of the hard work, right? I'm just a creative, the ideas person. So I'm a pure creative, and that's tough. Doing that every single day is tough. You know, expecting yourself to come up with, like, imagine coming up with a new melody every single day. That's hard. So I'm grateful that like I do other things. So for example, physics. If I don't feel particularly creative, like I have a mental block, I can just do other things in physics, right? I'll debug some code. I've got 101 issues I need to figure out in physics right now. So it's like, I can work on any one of them. It's like, if I don't feel like doing this, I can do this. If you're a content creator, basically, the idea is if you don't feel creative, focus on making other things work. If you make YouTube videos, for example, what you could do is, if you don't feel like shooting or being creative, edit, right? Yeah, I think editing is one of the things where it's kind of boring, but you kind of have to do it, and it's a lot of work. But manifesting your idea into the real world takes work. So for example, like physics, right? Like I just said, the code stuff. If I don't feel like making ideas, I just work on manifesting them, programming them into the real world, seeing simulations, working on simulations to see how they work. Not necessarily just working on the ideas, which can actually be quite fatiguing, right? So it's a balance between being creative and doing work. Like for example, in music, if you don't feel like writing, you know, work on the mix, work on making it sound good a little bit, what you've already made. But if you feel like being creative, then you go be creative. Like, it's a balance. So yeah, even if I don't, I just allow it to happen. I do other stuff. That's not when it comes to mental health though. Sometimes mentally my brain just clouds and I physically can't work. I just have to go through that sometimes. Who does the cooking, you or your girlfriend? I wrote, huh? Yeah, I'm not in a relationship. I don't know what gave you that idea. I've never joked about that. That's weird. I was thinking, have I ever? Because I do joke about certain things. Like I told Billy I was on the Uberman work schedule. So I think it's like 3.5 hours working, 5.5 hours sleep, and you keep doing that like 4 times a day. So if for every 3.5 hours you work, you have 5.5 hours sleep, and you keep doing that. There's no night and day. You just keep working and sleeping forever. I don't know why you believe that. As a joke I said it, and I just sort of stuck with it because you mentioned it again. I was like, oh yeah, I'm still on that. But I don't think I've ever joked about being, that's just weird. So I don't know where you got that impression from, but I'll answer the question. I do enjoy cooking. I think cooking is a lot like making an instrumental. I think my cooking became a lot better after I started making music, because the details start becoming important, like flavor, like texture, and like all these different things become important. And I never realized until I started making instrumentals myself, the way, you know, the echoes work and the crashes and the little textures and the voices, all that is important. Same as in cooking, all the flavor, like how quick you, like when you fry the rice, for example, how long, you know, what point you put the egg in, you know, all the seasoning, everything, all those things that need to be balanced perfectly to make a good dish. So yeah, I don't mind cooking. But low-key, okay, don't tell my parents this. If I ever see them, they'll start making me do shit. But I actually enjoy doing housework. So for me, Monday is my like housework day. So I actually like washing up. Like I enjoy it. Like even as a kid, like I started washing up myself when I was about 13, and I really started like my mom. I remember this perfectly. My mom was like, "What are you doing?" Because I was washing dishes for 5 minutes, like one dish for 5 minutes. I just like the way the water feels on my hands. Okay, first of all, white people, what the fuck? Like I asked when I went to Scouts, right? The white people there, they told me, like, we were cooking pancakes once in Scouts, and to wash up, they had this one bucket of water in the sink, and they use the same water to wash everything. What the fuck? I get it, right? If you don't have running water, it's good. What the? You have running water? What excuse are you making, bruv? It's disgusting. White people sort your life out. Man, we have running water, bruv. It's 2020. But I just like the feel though. Like I don't get people who are icky about washing food. It's like you ate that, you know. Why is your hands why is touching it more disgusting than eating it? But I can't like washing up. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of enjoy it. It's quite fun. I like the water. I actually really like hoovering. Oh, So this is something I didn't realize people don't know about. So if you have wooden floors, buy yourself a steamer. It is mental. It basically it's like a mop, but it steams the floor. And trust me, you can feel the difference with your feet, how clean it is afterwards. Trust me. Like, you don't need to wipe it or like clean it. You just steam it. You basically do it like a Hoover, and it will dry pretty much within the next 5-10 minutes. And it's so good. So steam your floors, bro. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I actually kind of like hoovering. It's quite fun. I get the same thrill when I drive, if that makes sense. Why do you keep making impressions if you're bad at them? Oi. I'm good at impressions, alright? You ain't heard my Jay-Z. I'm not doing my Jay-Z. I'm not doing my Jay-Z, don't worry. And that's the first time I ever laid eyes on Andy Dufresne. Morgan Freeman, Shawshank Redemption. Like, I feel like certain people slip into accents when they're making fun of things. I feel like some people make fun of the East London accent. But when they're playing, like, for me, I go into a Southern American accent. Like, I don't know why, like, yo, Billy, why are the wolves so fat? He be eating all our sheep. We gotta shoot him dead. I don't know why I just slip into a Southern accent. I just really find it nice and just, it's funny. I feel like some people slip into like, I can't do an East London accent. But I love just slipping into a Southern accent. It's just so funny to me. What's the nicest thing anyone has ever done for you? I think the genuine nicest thing anyone's done for me is Bill. So as a sort of thank you, I suppose, they wrote me a song, which is now called No Time to Die, but it's the James Bond song. And they told me they had me in mind when they were writing it, which is worrying, but I get it. I suppose a lot of people feel like I'm some sort of James Bond-esque character, right? I live in London, I'm like very secretive in what I do, I have multiple things, I have multiple skills, and you know, I'm quite athletic, and you know, I used to have an Aston Martin, and you know, all these different things. It's like, nah. I'm just a dude, bro. Talking on a mic at, oh fucking hell, 2:15 in the morning. But yeah, that was very nice of them. And they even set me up and got me introduced to Hans Zimmer, which was very nice of them. Yeah, so writing a song No Time to Die about me was pretty nice, dedicated to me. Also, I did actually find the poem it was based off. It was like something about, I can't remember what I wrote, something like betrothed to a self-betrayal, blood, and head resting on curbed pillows, or something like that. And it was something about owing blood or something. Where is your safe space? I feel like normally people use family as a safe space. I don't have one. I should probably have one in the future. Right now I'm living for the future. I'm hoping that, you know, once I get settled and I, you know, have what I dreamt about, as I've said, I will have a safe space. But right now I have no safe space. Literally, I have nowhere to turn right now. If things go south, I have nowhere to go. And I know all of you listening are saying like, oh come on, you can come to my studio, you can come to my place, it's calm. I know I could, but I feel like that's like a last ditch. I would never want to do that to you and impose in that way. So I don't really have like a safe space I can go to and rely on, for example. I mean, growing up, I used to have 3 safe places back in high school, or early high school at least. So I remember one of my safe spaces used to be in the library, in the school library, not sitting down, but just in between the bookshelves, and I used to look at all the books. You know what? I murked that library. I finished 4 whole bookshelves. I used to read bears, you know. The next safe space was my form room. So I used to be in the modern foreign languages form, and I used to sit underneath the tables and read, and that used to be my safe space next to the radiator. That was really fun in winter. And then we moved to the English room, and that was mad because it was like kind of separate from the school. So we can get like, the first one was next to the headmaster's office, which wasn't great. Yeah, he came in once when we were playing it and running around the tables, which wasn't the best. But yeah, then the other inform room we had was in English, which was mental because it was so far. And we could eat just outside of it and go back in. And yeah, I really like that room. Because school was my safe space for a long time. I think my genuine safe space that I actually always had, from all the way from year 4 to basically year like 10, 11, I don't think I ever went to, so it was 5 Foot Giant's house. And the only reason I said up to like year 10 is I didn't really go to his house after that. Once I got FaceTime and stuff, we basically just FaceTimed. Yeah, his house definitely used to be something I used to consider a safe space. Because, yeah, I remember, yeah, so like I used to go to his house, like growing up, I used to go to Fafa Giant's house basically every other week. Like I remember I used to go karate in the morning, I used to do my homework, go karate, come back, go to Fafa Giant's house after I ate. It was so fun on Saturdays, it was so good. We used to basically play zombies all the time. We were so bad. We thought we spent like 2 years playing zombies and then we realized they were dogs. We were so bad we couldn't get past round 3 and we thought dogs were like the boss and then we'd finished. Oh, how naive we were. But yeah, I remember, so he had cousins like 3 doors down, and so what that meant was either one or two things. So in Fafa Giant's house, for example, because he had cousins a couple doors down, so either his cousins would come to his house and so we'd be playing Xbox and upstairs or whatever, and downstairs I could hear all his cousins, you know, talking, laughing, eating, whatever. And for me that kind of felt like the family I never had, and it kind of made me feel homely. Or his family would go to the other house and me and Fafa Giant would just play alone in his house Xbox, and we could just basically shout and scream into the mic on Xbox live lobbies and piss people off while play zombies. So that was fun. So either way it was good at his house. So yeah, those were my safe spaces. Right now I don't have any. Like straight up, I don't have any. What about certain people do you identify with most? So there's one word I wrote here, and it's a man I never met, but it's a man I identify a hell of a lot with, and it's a guy called Matt Miller. Most of you know this, most of you know my connection with him. But I think what's interesting about him, especially on circles, is how close he was living to death and knowing it, yet working. Like I've expressed this already on this mic. I might be dead while you're listening to this, and yet I still carry on living, even though this life-altering possibility, literally life-altering possibility, exists just around the corner. That will to just keep going despite this pressure on your mind is something I identified with him a lot. You know, I listen to circles and I hear a lot of myself in that. I feel like mental health and sort of problems with people I identify with a lot within people. So the way like Matt Miller dealt with his problems was he put it into music, and he sort of, you know, formed connections and relations with people. So one of the things I was facing, right, was this idea of this life-altering mental health issue I was dealing with, and I didn't know if I was even going to be alive in a couple of years' time. So what I did was the most logical thing I could do at that time. That was to tell, at the time, 4 people. I quite extensively told 4 people about the problems I was having with my life at that point. And I chose 4 because 4 seemed good. I kind of coined them as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I referenced them in the beginning actually of Kraken. I contacted basically 4 friends. Well, Fafa Giant I already knew, but I still got into contact with some people that I kind of trusted, right? So I contacted Fafa Giant, the mathematician, friend that went to my uni and who did computer science and were good friends at high school, and a dude who was an economist, or no, he did maths and stats, didn't he, or something. He didn't do what I thought he was doing at Warwick. And to me, those are the 4 people at that time that I could trust the most. Basically, what the idea was, if anything happened to me, or I did something stupid, or I couldn't trust myself, I could basically trust them, if anything happened, to tell the truth. And to tell, you know, my parents maybe, about what happened. Or, you know, the police what happened, or what I was going through. So they kind of have a little bit more of a complete idea about what happened. I didn't know what would happen, I didn't know what situation I was talking about, but I was thinking maybe something might happen. So, you know, I contacted these 4 people. I swallowed a lot of pride in telling them about some of this stuff. So that was what I did in a very Mac Miller-esque way. I sort of dealt with my own situation in a logical way. It's funny that I didn't try to stop my death. You know, I just was planning to deal with it. Because one of my biggest worries is if I die, I leave a shitload of work for other people. Being a hassle is probably my biggest, you know, one of my biggest fears actually now that I think about it. Being a hassle when I die for other people. I don't want to be a hassle. I just want to go peacefully and people, you know, don't have to deal with me and go, fucking hell, this person died, now I have to go sort this shit out. You know, my parting gift should hopefully be that everything's better. That would be a nice way of doing it, right? What's your biggest achievement? So again, this kind of goes into what I was talking about a little bit already. So you could argue it's the Grammys, you could argue it's the Mercury Award, you could argue it's, impressing the Alchemist. It could be, any of these big things, winning for being shortlisted and potentially almost winning the Forward Prize in poetry, really shaking up the Oxford and Cambridge poetry unions. But I don't think so. I think all those things I've done are a product of 2 decisions I've made in my life. And the first one was, as I said, in year 9, deciding to learn. In year 9, again, like I said, I sat next to a guy called Superman. His name wasn't Superman, but he was a guy who was comparable to Superman at the time. He was so smart. He was the smartest in the year, in my opinion. And the fact that I decided that I was going to be smart, I wanted to, be like him. I saw him as a role model when it came to learning. And I was like, no, I can do this shit. And learning, putting the work in and learning from that point on, that was one of my biggest achievements, because my whole life has been a product of that 1 year. Like, I'm only doing theoretical physics because I invested into my time in maths at that point and realized I liked maths. And I liked, I always liked physics, but I liked maths at that point. I wouldn't be a theoretical physics if it wasn't for year 9 of my life, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, literally I went from like a C grade student to an A star, top of the class student, just by deciding and realizing how to learn and how to work and how to organize time and putting pride and effort into my work, like Superman did. So yeah. And the second probably biggest achievement is first year university. So I was already kind of on the list for mental health, especially doing theoretical physics at the university I went to. There was a tendency for me to get worse, just because I was doing theoretical physics at my university, and my university was kind of known for having people with mental health issues or developing them over time. I was put on a list, and I was seeing a therapist just to work some stuff through. As we started talking, she started noticing a little bit things that were worse than they originally just seemed, because on the list it was just depression, whereas there was a lot of things worse than that I was going through. I had a choice in this moment, and the choice was to bottle it up, tell her it's all fine, and leave. I would have gone to like 3-4 sessions and would have left. But part of me was like, you know what, I want to get better as a person. I want to be healthy. And that choice started a whole journey I wasn't prepared for, but I fucking put the work in to better my mental health and be better as a person. Opening up at that moment was such a huge thing. I'd never done that in my life up until that point. I'm not a person who opens up much. So Jesus Christ, when I did, it was like, whoa, I did a big step in personal growth at that point. And I've never looked back. I've always felt like I can get better, I can be better, I want to be healthier. Like, being happy was something I never even realized was an option for me. And now it's like over the horizon. So it's like, those 2 decisions changed my life. And I was very proud. Those are my biggest achievements. Realizing I can learn and I'm good at learning and I'm smart. And also the second one being smart with my emotional range, being smart in my mental health, basically. What are your favorite films? So we're just going to speed through this. So Shutter Island, Dark Knight, the Digimon movie from I think 2000, brilliant animation movie. Joker 2019, Incredibles, amazing soundtrack. I had that on DVD and I watched that about 500 times. Shawshank Redemption, I think Green Mile could have taken that place, but I feel like Shawshank had a bit more going on for it. I think Green Mile was a bit too fairy tale, whereas Shawshank had a certain amount of I think the nuance I really loved was the fact that that one dude killed himself after being institutionalized in that prison. I think that was a really, really, really good touch, and that's why it's one of my favorite movies. And Ratatouille is a movie I don't think people expected. I really like the animation style. I really like the atmosphere in that movie. I'm not the biggest fan of the plot necessarily, but I think I identified with it on a certain level because, physics is, seen with the elegance and class and smart people. I'm not really any of those. So me doing physics is sort of ham-fisted, having elegance in my way of doing things, but it's sort of how Ratatouille wanted to be a chef, and I sort of identified with that. So, and I am good at physics. I'm not going to sugarcoat. I think I am good at physics. I have certain ideas that are good. Remy, Ratatouille. Remy knew he was a good chef. So but he just, you know, had to overcome certain things. So yeah, I feel like that's sort of level I identify with it, and I really love the animation. It's a beautiful movie. My favorite, actually, you know what? So my parents always watch like Bollywood movies, and I don't watch Bollywood movies. I can't understand the language. I have to have subtitles, and even then, the movie's like 3 hours long. I don't have fucking time for that. 3 hours. That's a quarter. That's an eighth, an eighth of your day. What was it? So if you're awake for 12 hours, that's a quarter of your day watching a movie. Bro, I don't have time for that. But I do actually enjoy 2 Asian movies. One of them called 3 Idiots, about 3 basically engineering students. I think it's quite a nice movie, and again, this is going to sound really bad, but I really like the fact that one of the guys kills himself from the stress. And trust me, this is not a theme, but yeah, I really like that. There's a good, nice nuance in the film that I think needed it. There's a lot of love in that movie, like romance that doesn't need to be there, but whatever. It needs the selling point. And My Name is Khan is another Asian movie. It's not too Asian. I think even if you're like white and don't know about Bollywood, you can still watch this movie and enjoy it. It's about basically this guy with Asperger's, basically trying to living through 9/11 as a Muslim. Basically, that's the entire plot, and I quite like it. It is a bit fanciful and a bit full of itself, but you know, it was a good movie, and it's got Shah Rukh Khan as the main actor, and he really did a good job. So yeah. So quickly, my favorite animes to watch off the top of my head. I haven't really gone through an extensive list, and this is just right now I've written this list. Evangelion, amazing. Death Note, super good. It's like that was episodically so good. Like every episode meant something. You couldn't understand the next episode if you didn't watch this episode, and each episode moved it forward. Like I've never seen pacing like that. Like genuinely, it was ahead of its time in its story writing. So good. If you haven't watched Death Note, watch it. Trust me, it's so good. I'm not even joking. Evangelion, I get people might not like it. It's a bit philosophical and it's a bit, you know, over it. Yeah, but like Death Note is really good. Even if you don't like anime, it's really good. Castlevania, and you just see them fall, and it's like snow but human bodies. It's so beautiful, the animation. Favorite games. My first ever console was a NES. My sister had it, and then I basically took it over from her. We had Super Mario 3, Super Mario Bros. We had Duck Hunt with the gun, but that was kind of a boring game, I'm not gonna lie. It was a bit annoying. And the McDonald's game, which I played a surprising amount, but yeah, I really like Super Mario Bros. And then I had a PS2. Favorite games from that are Ratchet & Clank 3/Gladiators, Batman Lego, which I used to play. So I remember that my specific memory of Batman Lego is I used to play this every Friday when my sisters went to some dance class or something, and I used to basically do my homework from like 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 or something, and then 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock I would play Batman Lego, and it was so good. And I used to like start off my weekend. I loved it. Monster House, I didn't finish that. It was actually a very difficult game, but the atmosphere in that game was crazy. Like I genuinely felt kind of scared playing that game. It was so good. I got it for my birthday. Simpson Hit Run, the first ever PS2 game I ever owned, and probably my favorite. I 100%ed that game. It was so good. Like I'll just drive around with that game sometimes. So I never completed it actually. So no, I didn't 100% it. But yeah, I couldn't do the final mission because I'm trash. And Lord of the Rings 2 Towers I had, which was really good. FIFA 08. I'm stupid. So I started the manager mode thinking this was like a story mode. I was like, okay, next match I'm going to end and win the cup. Yeah, it goes on forever, but I really like FIFA 08. FIFA, and also, because of that game, the only football I know is the 2008 teams. Like, I was surprised that Michael Carrick still doesn't play for Man United. And Ultimate Spider-Man was probably one of the best games I've had on PS2. You get to play as Spider-Man and Venom, and it made me fall in love with Spider-Man. So Ultimate Spider-Man, definitely. I spent a lot of hours. I think I played that game like 3 times. And it was a hard game as well. And then I bought an Xbox 360. And my favourite games on that were Arkham City, Darksiders, Witcher 2/3. Well, actually I've got an Xbox One as well. I have an Xbox One now. So Witcher 3 on Xbox One, Witcher 2 on 360. So Apex is a game I've wasted a lot of hours on with 5 Foot Giant over summers. And we're still kind of trash, but we win a lot of games. We actually are kind of good. It's the most annoying fun game I've played. One of the best games I've played, honestly, is purely because of 5 Foot Giant. Modern Warfare 3. I cannot leave that off the list. I have spent at least 2 full weeks, I think, game time playing that game. Crazy. I love that. We would spend so much time playing that game. It was actually so bad. I remember we played that game once for like 9 hours straight on call. I remember looking at the Skype call and we called for 9 hours straight. It was, oh my god, and we weren't even bored of it. It was crazy. We used to waste so much. I was so good at Modern Warfare 3. We played it literally until the servers finished. That's how long we played it. And Red Dead Redemption on the 360. Yeah, I actually really, so the reason why I like Red Dead Redemption, not only because it was a brilliant game, but, and also my first Rockstar game, but, so I played it way after it came out, by the way. So I played it in my summer between GCSEs and A levels. Because the reason why I love it a lot is in that summer, I also decided I was going to read the Harry Potter series. So as a kid, I don't know why my sister told me not to read The Goblet of Fire, because it was just not for me for some reason. So all the way at the age of 16, I decided I would finally read it. And I was like, all right, I've got a summer, let's read it. I finished it within a week. So I was like, oh, okay. Because I have all the Harry Potter books apart from the first 2. So now I've read, was it Order of Phoenix? And I finished that within a week. And then I read Half-Blood Prince, and I finished that. And then I read the Deathly Hallows. And then I went back and read the 3rd book. So that summer was brilliant. Honestly, if you're bored, read the Harry Potter series. It's so good. I prefer the Harry Potter books over the movies a lot, I think. You just get so much more and you get way more invested in the world. But I really like the Christmas periods. It made Christmas feel like Christmas. Yeah, I associate Red Dead with a lot of different things there. How does it feel to be a genius? I am not a genius. I am not a genius. I don't know what kind of pedestal you put me up on. I am not a genius. I feel like there's 2 types of people who are smart or genius. There are people who can make really complicated things simple, and people who can make really simple things complicated. And I'll take an example of a physicist for both. So take for example Einstein, and he generalized the entire idea of gravity, not as a force, but as geometry, which is crazy. That's such a complicated idea, and he summarized it so beautifully in general relativity. So his genius was taking something so complicated and making it simple, versus a lot of physicists who can make something so simple very complicated. But again, that's quite beautiful, because simple processes like the repulsion between, for example, 2 electrons, you might act, okay, that's quite simple, right, on the surface. But then there's this whole field of electroweak theory, which takes, you learn in your 4th year as a master's student, you learn about electroweak theory if you take the right courses and all the theory courses. So I learned electroweak theory in unification and quantum field theory. It's an idea embedded in quantum field theory, and yeah, the unification between electromagnetism and the weak force. So something as simple as 2 electrons repelling each other is explained by a quantum field. So it's taking something simple and explaining it very complicatedly, I suppose, if you want to think of it like that. So I feel like those are 2 types of geniuses that see the real madness in simple things, or the people who see the simple things in madness. How do you manage to stay in physics and music full time? I don't. I do. I was gonna say I don't because I barely do any. No, it's hard. It's hard work. Yeah, hard work. Next question. How would you describe your production style? Don't really have one. I quite like a varied production. I quite like funk and jazz, and I quite like atmosphere. So I suppose those are a few things that was always going to be incorporated in some sense.